Welcome, everybody, to the Choose Up Podcast. Jimmie Swain, Marcus Greaves here.
No more podcast. It's just choose up. Just choose up. Welcome back to Choose Up.
Choose Up.
Hope everybody's been having a good time into the new year. I know we have. On the last episode, we talked about goal setting. I've had some revelations on that end. I've come up with a very good structure for myself moving into the new year. What I'm really trying to just focus on for myself now is just the work, action. So instead of thinking about, I think we talked about it a little bit, but instead of always trying to analyze every single minute detail and account for every single possible scenario before I take an action on something, I'm just doing things. And it's actually been quite beneficial so far, even with the content creation side, with the business side of things with Functional First. And so I've been feeling a lot better in that aspect. I'm just trying to actually not plan as hard.
Man, you're just going to start off like that? We can't let the
man.
folks know that we're outside?
We on location. We switched it up on y'all. This is not going to be a regular thing. If you're listening to this on wherever you get your podcast, because you know wherever you get your podcast.
Yep.
We are in a different location today. We're outside. We're enjoying the sun. We're enjoying the brisk wind. And it's time to begin, but I'm not a rapper.
Nah, but yeah, the last time we were having discussion and talking, about goal setting and, like you said, not paying attention to every minute detail in every scenario, not trying to be as calculated. It makes you live life a little more.
Yeah.
And I feel like as of lately, since we recorded that, I've been trying to do that a little more. Got to go to the national championship game the other day.
How was that, bro?
Man, it was fantastic, man. I saw those Ohio State players, and I was like, man, I'm happy I don't play football no more. Boy, they walked out the tunnel. I was like, please.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I didn't even watch the game. I already knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was.
I
You
already
know
knew
what?
was
You
gonna
know what? Notre Dame did a good job. They did about as well as you can. But the atmosphere was dope. LeBron was there, so like they put him on the screen. Everyone went crazy. Everyone by I was like, LeBron James,
Our glorious king,
Nah,
LeBron.
it was a good time though, man. But I did a lot of like living in the moment, not being like, okay, well, I'm at the national championship game. What are like, the 5 things, for example, I need to get done? Okay, well, do I need to do a live shot? Do I need to make sure my scripts are right? Do I need, A, B? I was like, bro, I'm just gonna go enjoy it. And then like,
bro.
obviously you have to prep for the, for the job and the work that I was there for. But I was like, man, it was cool to soak it in and like just take a second and be like, dang, man, like Marcus from 6 years ago would think this is the coolest cat in the world. This new year has brought a different perspective, man. I like that we had the conversation of goal setting and taking that next step in regards to how you approach life on a day-to-day basis rather than being super calculated. So
And that was your big goal though. Was to enjoy life, try to enjoy life more.
Man,
so I'm happy for you.
Not so work and goal oriented.
Yep, I love that. I think that's for me is helping in that way of just not that we said like the over analyzing part of it. I'm finding that I'm taking a lot more action now because I'm analyzing less, and I'm finding I think a lot of people can relate to this is that the more you analyze, it almost paralyzes you to take any action because now you're thinking of too many factors of things that are imaginary scenarios that you have no idea if they're going to happen or not because you haven't taken any action because you're thinking about all the imaginary scenarios. And I've just been practicing. Even in the last week since we talked last, I've just been I'm saying, what about this? Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. I think you can have all the preparation in the world and still have a poor outcome. Even just this recently, Lamar Jackson, we talk about him a lot. I think we're both, as much of a fan as you can be of somebody. We try not to be fans of anyone, but as much as you can be a fan, just because of what he represents and how he plays the game. But I mean, he, in all intents and purposes, to me, he seemed super locked in this entire season, just so focused, and still didn't get the result that he wanted. Still got bounced out of the playoffs. So I think just even watching that because I was so tapped in, Lamar, please. Just seeing that, you can have all the preparation in the world, you can do everything right, and you can still not get the results. So why spend all that time just so focused on every single minute detail? Make sure you're covering all your bases and make sure you're attacking the issue or the goal correctly. But at the same time, if you get too far into the weeds, you're really distracting yourself from taking action.
Right. And even though he didn't get the result that he wanted, I think what he showed in this last game against Buffalo was the fact that he wasn't overanalyzing like he has in the past. Because the big thing with Lamar Jackson, for those who don't know, they say he can't win in the playoffs, which is not true because he obviously wins in the playoffs. But can't win that big game, whatever you want to say. But even in years past when he was playing, you could tell he was almost overanalyzing to a point where it was paralyzing him, like you were saying, for yourself. So then we watched him in this last game. Yeah, he didn't have his best game, but he still played a great football game.
Yeah,
and that's where it's like
really
he prepped for the moment, he did what he had to do, and he just went out and played. Now, sometimes you get the results that you want, sometimes you don't, but that's the part of life that sometimes it just happens. But at least he didn't put himself in a situation to overanalyze and paralyze himself from even having a decent game or a good game.
There you go.
So he was able to do that. So, again, even though you don't get the results that you wanted. Sometimes it happens. It's just like on a day-to-day basis, man, we do a lot of the same things. We don't have to overanalyze every situation to the point where it paralyzes you that you can't even take a step forward with anything.
And I think for some people, even myself, I would ask at what point, and I'm asking myself this right now, is at what point does it become overanalyzing? You know, what's that kind of middle ground to where it's like, no, these are the things that I have to account for, like clearly, like whether it's making content, like I have to pay attention to the editing, like, you know, but I don't need to go by every single frame and make sure it's exactly 0.4 seconds on every single frame. Like that might not be necessary. That might be overanalyzing at that point. So for you, you know, with your personal goals right now and just enjoying things, and I know you want some pursuits, you know, some entrepreneurial pursuits for yourself, at what point do you think that it's good to account for factors, and then what point do you think, okay, now I'm overanalyzing?
Well, I'm an overthinker, so I know I am, like, and that's probably part of the problem. And there's been plenty of times where I was like, man, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna go do something. Like, I want to be in TV, so I'm gonna jump and just do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was recording videos on my phone, you know, in the back studio while the actual shows were going on back in the day. And I didn't overthink about that. And sometimes when I overthink and overanalyze situations, I look back to past experiences where I'm like, I know there's a fine line when I was overanalyzing.
Yeah.
And so I would just sometimes record videos, throw them up. Some people are like, bro, this guy's terrible. But I was like, I did it. And I threw it out there, and look at the result. Obviously now to where I'm at. Like I said, Marcus 6 years ago would think I'm a cool guy. But then there's also situations where, you know, even if I didn't overanalyze something, or if I did overanalyze something, I could tell because I was so worried, like you said, about every minute detail. I would record a video, I would watch it, and I was like, ooh, I didn't like the way that my hands were moving there. I didn't like the way that I was blinking, or I didn't like the way that my body language was. I feel like that's overanalyzing in that particular situation. When we were talking about it before we started recording, I fall back to a lot of journaling, bro. Like, I even journaled today about the experience that I had at the national championship game, where I wasn't overanalyzing the situation of, okay, how many new people can I meet because I want to, you know, eventually be a big time sports broadcaster in A, B, C, D, and E. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's overanalyzing the situation to the point where I wouldn't have had a good time because all I'd want to do is try and find and look for the next move.
Yeah, I used to journal all the time, bro. I just recently got back into doing it consistently.
Come on, baby, how is it? It's great,
good,
bro.
Man,
it's good.
I think how it's been helping me with the overanalyzing part is that I just think if this isn't important enough for it to go in a journal entry, it's probably not worth super overanalyzing about, you know. So when I'm writing, I just let myself naturally write, and then I just read it over, and I'm like, was that even important? Like all these things that I'm worried about, like it didn't even make it into the journal.
But and do you ever look at? Sorry to cut you off, but do you ever look back at certain situations, because there's sometimes like things be having you hot in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like some be having me hot, and then I look back like a day later, I'm like, I was probably overreacting, bro. Like I probably didn't need to act like that.
Man, I just hit my car last night on this dang ice. Like listen, I was hot on that. It was my fault because it was ice, you know, it's icy roads right now, and I left and I made it back home, no problems. Now I'm like, oh, let me try to go get some food real quick because I made it out. First thing I do is hit a patch of ice, boom. So one of the tail lights a little busted up right now. The car's still good, baby girl's still good, she's still driving, but like I was super hot, but then I thought about, you know, like realistically, I'm gonna be able to get it fixed. Yeah. It's gonna be fine. But for about 30 minutes there, I was like,
but is that so do you think that was overanalyzing not even overanalyzing, overreacting to a situation that you can now journal about and say, okay, maybe I did need to overanalyze or be overreacting for a situation
I think it didn't even make it to that didn't make it to the journal straight up. And I think that's because in the moment I was able to take myself and I gave myself a little bit of time, but I was able to calm myself down, evaluate realistically. It's not that big of a deal. I'm gonna get my car fixed. My car still drives, so I'll still be able to do everything I need to do in the meantime. And then life goes on. Keep it pushing.
So would you say is that I guess the question I have for you then is for people who are wondering, you know, overanalyzing a situation, how do you know? Is it something where if you journal about it, for a great example, like you said, you journal about it, then you look back and you're like, oh, it's not that big a deal, or if it even doesn't even make it into the journal?
I think, you know, it doesn't even have to go into your journal because, you know, not everybody journals. That's not everybody's. You know, I recommend that you do if you haven't tried it before, you know. But honestly, I would just think, can I do this without this? You know, and if the answer is yes, then you're probably overanalyzing. Like for instance, like, can I make a video? Cause I get a lot of people that hit me up about content creation and stuff like that. I'm actually going to start taking coaching calls soon for content creation.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother.
Anyways, but a lot of people, people ask me about that kind
Yeah.
of stuff all the time. I'm like, can you make a video without having a A7 Sony camera, all this stuff? Yes. So if you're waiting to get that camera to make content, you're overanalyzing. You don't need that. Every single video I've ever made has been off my dang iPhone. If it comes to a job situation or something like that, it's like, do I need to make sure I have X, Y, and Z on my resume before I apply to something? No. I mean, just apply. I know plenty of people with stacked resumes that still get rejected.
100%.
You might as well still apply. At this point, you are overanalyzing. So that's what I would say. As soon as you are asking the question, do I need this thing to do this thing? And if the answer is no, then that is overanalyzing. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go get it. That doesn't mean it's still not valuable. But if it is freezing you and keeping you from taking the action when it's not something that's even necessary to take that action, I think at that point you're overanalyzing.
Somebody cut that and put it on the Choose Up page, man.
Give me the clips. Give me the clips. Staying on the journaling, what would you say has been the biggest benefit for journaling for you? 'Cause I know you've been journaling as of like recently more than I have. So what is the biggest benefit for you in journaling?
Yeah, I've been journaling, bro, for a long time now. We're going on like year 3. So it's been helpful. Now, don't get me wrong. There's definitely times where I look back and I'm like, what was I even talking about?
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to go back and reflect on a lot of the different points I was in my life and and kind of the emotions I was feeling at the time. The biggest benefit for me, man, is seeing growth. And whether that and growth again, I need people to understand growth is not like a constant incline. That it's like valleys, peaks, like we always say.
Yeah, it's not exponential.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I look back, I'm like, man, I was going through it for like 2 months,
Come
man.
on now.
But then you see, day by day or week by week, however you want to journal, you see how you grow and you see how you handle situations and you see, the lessons that you could take from each and every situation that I was in. I think that's something that's very beneficial to me because I even look back at my journal, 3 or 4 years ago, and you look at it and you're like, man, this was a really cool, this was a really cool experience that I had. Or I'm like, man, this is a really tough experience that I had. How did I get through it? Okay, then you keep writing, and I keep seeing how I worked through it on a day-by-day basis, and it was awesome. And that's what helped me get through a lot of situations. It was very beneficial, and now I feel like I'm a little more in tune with my emotions because I'm not much of an emotional person.
Yeah.
I should say I wasn't. And now I feel like I am because it's been easier to recognize how I'm feeling and approach that properly. Like, oh, I'm feeling sad. You could say that.
That's one thing I've noticed is that I've gotten more emotional over the years.
Yeah, for sure. As you should.
I think that's a positive thing. Not like I'm like letting more things upset me, but I think I'm just more comfortable with saying like, oh, this makes me feel this way. This makes me feel that way. But how'd you get started journaling? Like you said, it was 3
My
years
girl,
ago.
man. My girl,
really?
she was like, bro, you need to do that.
Shout out to the shorty.
Because she actually was saying that's what she did, and I never really thought about it. Now, like I did it a little bit before I met her, but then obviously once I met her and she was saying how often that she journaled, I was like, oh, that's something I would, she was telling me the benefits and how it helped her out a lot, and I was like, you know what, like. That'd be cool. And when I first started, it was actually because I would say it was between her and a therapist that both kind of helped me get into it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you want me to write about my feelings, bro? Like, I'm not doing that.
I
You know what I'm saying? And because I just wasn't into my emotions and how I was feeling.
I think that's important. What you say right there, though, is like write about my feelings because even though we talked about it making it to the journal or not, I think when you start journaling, especially I think it's important. It's important for everybody, but I think especially for men, so often that we think that we can't have a space to complain or have any sort of space to be negative about anything that's going on in our lives. It's just like kind of that suck it up, mentality.
Yeah, tighten up, brother.
The journal is the place for that. So if you haven't journaled before, I would just say, almost like word vomit that thing. It's like, oh, I don't know what to write about. Write about anything. Just write.
That's what I did at first too.
Whatever it is, just come out because it is healthy to have a space to complain to a point. Obviously, there's balance in everything. But if you're never able to express your grievances with your life or with anything you have going on, not even to yourself, and that's why it's important to be honest in your journaling. Don't do revisionist history. Just be honest with what you're feeling in that moment, whatever it is. Then you can alleviate yourself. Because even say you can go back and be like, what was I on?
Right.
You even now you have the space to go back and say, what was I even on? That wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
But if you never have that, it's going to continue to hold in your mind, and it's going to be like, man, no, it is that bad, because you never get it out.
Well, and that's the thing. And even if it is that bad or was that bad, you see how you get through it. You find the steps that you went through to feel better.
Yep.
And that's something you can reflect on and be like, okay, well, if I have another situation that I'm not feeling good about or whatever it is, you could look back on that and be like, well, this is what I did then. How could I use that to the situation I'm in now?
Facts. Because
Come on, man.
even the human memory is incredibly fallible.
Yeah.
Like it's very,
Oh,
very,
nice
very
word.
fallible. Come on.
I said, nice
Vocab,
word. Who the
you know what I'm
journalist?
saying? Sixth grade
Who-
spelling bee
hey.
champ, baby. Let's go. But you know, so writing stuff down and
Yeah.
documenting your thoughts is super valuable because you might remember a scenario or how you handle a scenario, and it's not really that accurate or as accurate as you think it would be. But having a journal, you know, a captain's log, if you're a Star Trek person, that allows you to go back. Come on, man, don't even start playing with me. But that allows you to go back and think like, yo, this was really what I was thinking. That's like a little time capsule of who you were at that time, because I don't think we realize how many consecutive changes you're going through on a daily basis with the different things you're exposed to with your friendships, your relationships, the world. So seeing how your viewpoints were, like a snapshot of how you were thinking at one time, a Snapchat, is super valuable. It has been for me at least.
Right. And best thing about all this, like what we're talking about, don't overanalyze it.
Don't overthink it.
Hey, if you got a word vomit to get into that, then do it, because that's exactly what I did. I'm telling you, there used to be times I was writing down like anything and everything. I woke up today, I ate this, I didn't cook it very well, that made me mad, so I'm gonna go to work now. All right, now I'm back at work, or whatever it is, and then you get back, you're like, oh, okay, like, and you look back, I was like, oh, what am I even talking about? But it helped me get into that, because then once I started being more in tune with how I was actually feeling, you get rid of all of the, I woke up today feeling angry because I stubbed my toe. Now it's like, I woke up today, I realized, you know, hey, I might be a little under the weather, or I might not be in the best mood, but I want to find something that's going to make me feel better. I'll write back in it a little later after work, or at the end of the day.
And I don't know why people don't think journaling is anything less than a skill. It's something you build up over time.
100%.
Just like reading is a skill.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go into, if you're not a reader, if you're not someone that consistently reads, don't jump into an 800-page book off the jump.
Yeah.
You're going to get bored. You're not going to be able to keep your
Right.
attention span, and you're going to ultimately put the dang book down. You're not going to finish it. Start with something that's like 200 pages, something light, just like journaling. You don't need to go deep into introspection of your soul the first time you pick up a journal. Just write what you did that day.
Right.
If you have nothing to write about, write what you did that day.
Right.
Very simple. And then over time, that's going to get so repetitive that you're like, I already know what I did today. How did I feel about what I did today? And then the progression goes into from how I felt about what I did today to how I feel about myself, and reflect on my actions and how I can change those actions moving forward. I think that's a pretty natural progression. What happens with most people journaling, at least for myself, I started off the same way.
Yeah.
What did I do today? Blah, 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 blah. Then it started, how do I feel about what I did today? And it's like, then it turns in, how do I feel about myself and my actions, and how would I do things better the next time? Or how do I feel about things moving forward? And that's when I was consistently journaling. I actually started journaling from going to church, because I was just doing like notes and stuff during sermons. And then I was like, let me write about myself a little bit.
Let's see how I feel.
To see how I feel about, you know, what's going on. And then after I stopped going to church as much, then it just kind of continued on after that.
Yeah.
And then I stopped, and now I'm back into it. But I think, you know, more than anything, I think that's really invaluable, sitting with your thoughts, because even a lot of people aren't able to sit with their thoughts. That can be hard. And a journal can be a vehicle to do that. So, I mean, that might just be the lesson for the show today. Is like, just try it. I'm not saying you got to go buy this thick-ass journal and all this stuff, but you got some notebook paper at home somewhere.
Yeah.
Just one time, just write about your day and see how you feel after.
And we started with, don't overanalyze it.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it, and don't overanalyze it. Just give it a shot. If you don't like it, who knows? Maybe eventually you'll come back to it, or you just won't do it. Again, it's not for everybody.
You don't need a leather-bound book. You don't need a notebook. You know, just get a piece of paper and just start jotting down some stuff. That's stop overthinking it. Just try. And that goes for anything. You know, it's the new year. A lot of people are trying to do different stuff. And yes, you should do your research and try to do things properly. But at the same time, just give it a try, whatever it is, all right? And then you'll learn from that experience. That's what I was thinking about, is that's kind of the concept of failing up. So many times we say like failing up is a bad thing. Like we kind of use that as a dig at people, like they just failed their way up.
Yeah.
But, you know, failing up, I think, is actually a positive thing, because if you're just doing stuff and taking the feedback you get from failing at that stuff and improving, you are failing up, because you're using those failures as lessons to get yourself to the next thing, whether that be with journaling, career-wise, a show, you know, a talk show, whatever. You know, you're always using those failings and those shortcomings. As long as you're learning from them, you are failing up. You are choosing up. You know what I'm saying? Which is why, if you learned anything from the Choose Up today, from Choose Up, from the show, make sure that you follow us on the social media platforms at the Shoes Up. We are everywhere
What?
that you get your podcast.
What?
We are everywhere that you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, all of the above. If you got any value from this episode, please let us know. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, share the show with somebody that you know. All right? And Marcus, take us out.
Come on, man. Another day, another opportunity, folks.
Yes,
Have
sir.
a great one. You're